Good evening. How are you? Well, I only have a few moments because I was so engrossed in my walk I didn't pay attention to the time. And it goes like this. We have more rumblings that there'll be a prosecution by Black Jack Smith. And it's all based on the tape recordings that were obtained as a result of an interview that Trump gave when he appeared to be talking about confidential documents relating to war plans for Iran, or so it's been characterized by some one or other source. And it sounded like he was rifling the papers while he was doing it. And he acknowledged that he couldn't give it to the others because it was confidential, which is sort of a 1, 2, 3 case. And people are saying, oh, he's got to be prosecuted now. Well, yes, and he should have been prosecuted 2 years ago. And he should have been prosecuted before that, when there was a tape recording of him interfering with the Georgia election results, saying he should get as many votes as Biden had to beat him, plus one more vote for himself. So that's the lay of the land. People get excited that there's going to be an indictment, which is justified by the evidence that we've had, public, going back to 2016 and before that, when he would say and admit things all the time. And so, why did his lawyers meet the Justice Department today? They did because they wanted to say, this is prosecutorial misconduct. Dismiss the case. Don't go forward. And there's no word on what Justice said. And one word that is said is that there wasn't a disclosure by Jack Smith as to whether he's going to go forward and when he was going to go forward. So we don't know that, although everybody's saying this week there'll be an indictment. And of course it's possible, but they have a witness down in Florida they're going to put on the stand and take his testimony, and it's purported to be in the Mar-a-Lago document case. So where does that get us? And I'm concerned always when nothing happens about Garland saying, hey, we can't prosecute this guy because he's up for election. And they're starting the debates in July and August and so forth. And my answer to that is, this is a guy who tried to steal an election that he lost by overturning the government when his vice president wouldn't ignore the law based on false evidence that Trump and others gave the vice president that there had been fraud in the election. So you see the game here. We arrest and prosecute people who are not in these heightened positions, not billionaires, former presidents, however corrupt. And this is what my greatest fear is, that nothing will happen, and I'm sure it's shared with those who are listening to me. And so my hope is that we'll go forward and do something, but I have no illusions that this is an honest system, a level playing field, that what's going on isn't a tease to us, and then an invocation of law that makes it impossible for us to go forward. I've been talking about this a little bit today, and I may be on Scripps in the morning, their 7 a.m. show, and it'll be pretty much about what I'm saying right now, which is that we can't trust our government. We can't trust what they say they're going to do. We can't trust that they will do what they should do. We can't trust Garland to stop the whole thing because he oversees Jack Smith, to stop the whole thing because there's an election going on. What better case to prosecute than a man who's interfered with an election, who tells you not to investigate him now so he can interfere in this election, so he can get reelected, so he can do and give pardons to people who helped him get to that point. But I'm just interested in common sense, the history of the Constitution, ordinary law, and Garland is not. He sounds like a Federalist who believes that the president is royal, that he is and should be an autocrat. Now, the the Federalists have always been this way. When John Adams was the Vice President of the United States, he sat in charge of the Senate, as the Vice President does, and he would hound them on how they should address George Washington. He thought he should be His Imperial Magnificence, and things that royalty remarks. Now, luckily George Washington had bad teeth, and he just couldn't stand Jefferson and Hamilton fighting, and so he was glad to be rid of the whole thing. And he apparently never thought of himself as a patriarch, a monarch, although those were the kind of people around him and the advice that he got. And if it wasn't for Jefferson, who knows what America would have looked like in those days, because the Federalists withered away during Jefferson's administration. So here we are again, fighting the same old fight that we had then, and our target is a man who tried and failed to steal an election by upturning our government, and now some people are walking on thin shells rather than offend him. The cowardice, the misplaced trust in a dictatorship or, a monarchical rule defies everything that our nation stands for and has stood for since our Declaration of Independence, and with the more precise measures incorporated in our Constitution, which we have perfected over time. And we are racing backwards in all the organs of government in the absence of people subscribing to and following the Constitution and the law. Sad times in America. So I say goodbye to you for now, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.